We've already called the meeting to order, so thank you. I apologize that we ran over, and we appreciate your patience. So we'll start this meeting like we do every meeting with citizens' concerns. So if there's anybody here with a concern that is regarding something not otherwise on the agenda. Yes, sir.
Bob Ingram, Quabog Road. I looked on the website again tonight, and for the agendas for the minutes of Selectmen meeting, and the last one, which is published, was January 12th.
So the minutes, if you look in our packet tonight, there were minutes for a series of meetings. I don't know, I'm trying to remember what date they go up to. It's whatever we're voting on our consent agenda here. There's minutes through May 4th.
It's not 5 months worth, I don't believe.
They are, if you scroll through them all, it's all in one document in the packet for tonight's meeting. There's 5 months worth of minutes in there.
There's more meetings than 5 since January.
Right, it's whatever minutes are on our consent agenda here. There's, yeah, Franny's saying 17 different minutes that are all in our packet. But. Okay, any other citizens' concerns? All right, chairman's update. So I just want to congratulate the graduates from Acton Boxborough Regional High School this weekend. I think it was good weather, which is nice, and they're all off to hopefully an exciting summer and then very exciting things in the fall. So congratulations to the class of 2015. And then I want to thank everybody who was involved in the Memorial Day activities. I unfortunately missed it this year, but I hear it was a wonderful event, and again, good weather, so also good news. And there is a flag retirement ceremony this Sunday, June 14th at 1 in Woodlawn Cemetery. So if you can attend, or if you have any worn or unserviceable flags, bring them to the Veteran Service Officer, Jim McRae, before Saturday, and they will be properly disposed of. And that's all I have. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We learned on Friday that we are to receive an honor along with all our other communities that are part of the Crosstown Connect, in that the International City Management Association at their annual conference this September in Seattle will be honoring Crosstown Connect. We need to get this award right, because it's a lengthy one. Local Government Excellence Award for Community Partnerships for communities, $10,000 to $49,999. So I know I'll be going to the conference as well as the managers in the other communities, so it's a great honor. It's one of the things I've always dreamed about, is getting being one of the awards at ICMA. So, you know, kudos to everybody, and it really started out with a vision of Franny's like 10 years ago. So it's awesome. We're very proud. Also, we have been awarded a Tree City Award. Dean picked up the award last Wednesday, so we are now, once again, a Tree City. On June 25th at 11 o'clock, we are going to have a groundbreaking for Phase 2A of the Bruce Friedman Rail Trail, and that groundbreaking will be held at NARA at 11 o'clock, and we'll have a variety of speakers, and as well as representative of the governor's office, and I guess there'll be a reception to follow. And finally, all the land use departments will be moving back to Town Hall starting on the 16th. They'll be totally moved back on the 18th and fully operational on June 19th. That's my report.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we're actually going to skip over number 1 and do that after the end of the meeting. So we will go straight to number 2, pay as you throw. So is Corey here? Hiding in the back. So just, I think a lot of you are here for that tonight. So just so you know how we're going to do this, Corey's going to present, then we'll take questions from board members and then hear from the public. And since there are a lot of people, I just ask if you can keep your comments to about 2 minutes or less.
Good evening. I'm here tonight just to present the pay-as-you-throw and the sort of the fee recommendations for the transfer station. So I have a presentation tonight, essentially modeling what was at town meeting, just kind of go through the schematic of it. Essentially, this has come up through the different master plans, and the Green Committee had brought it to the Selectmen as an initiative in the current years. So the Highway Department was tasked with kind of looking at it, how it could be implemented at our facility. As most everyone knows, at the facility, it's kind of broken up into 3 locations where you come in to the gate at the gatehouse coming off of Route 2, and then you can come into the recycling area over here, and then the transfer station there. So we kind of have the 3 locations. Right now, we operate on a sort of a one-time sticker fees. You pay to get the sticker, and then you can, there's no limit to trash. You can recycle, and then we have certain fees for the coupon bulky items. Under this program, what it sort of does is it divvies up the fee structure. So instead of a one-rate sticker, kind of averages what we're doing across the board, this has a sticker fee that would cover the operation piece of it. So it would cover the sort of turning the lights on, the salaries to run it, and then the cost of the bag is determined, so that determines the cost of the bag itself and the cost of handling that to the facility. Over the years, we've been looking at what we're doing for trash there, and we have the different committees and different things that have gone on, have looked at the different communities in the state. This was one that was put together by the committee. They looked at the DEP website and formulated what the different communities were doing in Massachusetts. You'll notice the blue and the orange. The blue are communities that have implemented pay-as-you-throw, and then the other ones are non-pay-as-you-throw. So as you look at, this is looking at pounds of trash per household in 2013. So you can kind of see how most of the pay-as-you-throw communities are have a lower threshold for the amount of trash that's produced per household. And Acton is down here. I think it's 170 out of 217 towns that were reporting in that. That's generally what we've been seeing with the different options with pay-as-you-throw. I know the DEP recycling coordinator had done some studies and looked at information like that. She was generally seeing very similar information when she was comparing different transfer stations that have it and other transfer stations that don't have it. So it was just generally showing the same consensus of how it gives that incentive to people to try to put more recycling into the recycling and less into the trash. This was a chart that was put together by a group, and they looked at all the communities in Massachusetts since 2005 that have implemented it, and looking at what their trash reduction was after implementing the program. So out of all these communities, the lowest percentage was a 20% reduction in trash, and that's generally, in talking to a lot of the entities that are in pay-as-you-throw and that, looking nationwide, that's generally what most pay-as-you-throw communities report for sort of a minimum of what they do. And then you'll see as it goes up the list here, the average of what all these communities in Massachusetts saw for a drop was about 45% in their trash reduction, diverting it, whether it was diverting it to recycling or reuse or something. So,
or private, just to be clear, that or private collection of garbage, correct? This is just
So-
transfer station.
I'm sorry.
It just needs to be.
Sorry, we're not taking questions, but that actually is not. It's just reported on municipal waste that's thrown out through.
From the.
It doesn't involve private haulers, correct? So these are towns with transfer stations, but we're not taking questions now. You can ask them at the end.
Yes, this is strictly just for municipal transfer stations. And talking with the Mass DEP, there was questions raised about illegal dumping, questions of people that were losing people at the facility. And in general, she said in all the communities that she's dealt with, that they don't see any increase in illegal dumping when pay-as-you-throw was implemented. And they see any kind of a negligible change in the amount of users when these programs have been implemented. It's just something that they don't see happening. These were, when we were looking at the program itself, we were looking at bag sizes. These are the 3 bags that we were looking at. We wanted to give residents a choice depending on their lifestyle, what size bag they would need or they could possibly handle. So we were looking at the 8-gallon bag, a 15-gallon bag, and a 30-gallon bag. And essentially, when we took our existing operations and looked at what it would take, what it would look like if we implemented pay-as-you-throw, the 2 main stickers, the full access for the non-senior, currently right now it's at $210. Under a pay-as-you-throw program, we were looking at a rate of $100 for the sticker. And for the senior sticker, currently right now it's $55. We're looking at going down to $10. We've been looking at the pricing of the tipping fees for the trash right now for disposal. They seem pretty consistent with what we have right now, so we're not seeing any drastic changes in that rate. And then the pricing down here is the cost of the bags, which is the same as what we were discussing at the prior meetings and town meeting. The 30-gallon bag would cost $1.50. The 15-gallon bag would be 80 cents, and the 8-gallon bag was 50 cents. Like I said, that covers the cost of disposal and the bag itself. We've had some questions about the pricing not being linear. That's essentially due to the cost of the manufacturing of the bag. The 15-gallon bag isn't necessarily half the cost of a 30-gallon bag, so it's the cost of the smaller bags are slightly more to not more than the 30-gallon, but they're not linearly reduced by the size. So that's the reason why that pricing is not linear in its reduction. And a lot of the questions, as we've been going through this since last year, is how it would in fact impact the transfer station. So the only change itself as far as when someone comes to use the station is really just the bag itself. Instead of buying the black bags or whatever they're doing now, they'd be required to buy a specific Acton designated bag from any of the local retailers. We've spoken to several in town, and they're all very willing to sell, just as not adding on any cost to them. It's just sort of a pass-through. So if you were at the grocery store and you're buying your bags there, you would just have to buy Acton specific. The remainder of the facility is the same, so if the way you recycle or the way you're getting rid of your bulky waste, all that remains the same. So I kind of put together 3 options as far as for fees at the transfer station. The first option is just strictly pay-as-you-throw. It's the fee structure, like I said, the $100 for the first sticker of the non-senior, the $10 for the senior sticker, and then the other sticker price, as far as if you get the second sticker, is $15. A replacement sticker is $10. A recycling only would be $15, and then the senior recycling only would be $5 with the bag prices. And then included in this is also, there was a lot of discussion about trying to help residents in town that are just in need of assistance. So this would have some money that the outreach coordinators in town would be able to work together and see where those would work. We're also looking at adding another coupon fee for $1.50, and that's sort of for the odd-shaped small item that just doesn't fit in a bag and doesn't qualify as a bulky waste item. So in speaking to a lot of the communities, how they deal with sort of that odd-shaped item that you can't fit in a trash bag. I know in the case of Littleton and other towns we've talked to, it really just fell back on the attendance. It's sort of what they're doing now. They are kind of helping residents see what kind of trash they have, where they think they can recycle it, or if they have to dispose of it, and handling the fees. So we wanted to institute the $1.50 just to help for that one odd-shaped item that wouldn't fit. And then the rest of the fees that we have existing now would remain unchanged, so we're not looking to up any of the other fees that we might have for TVs or anything like that. The second option came up in regards to some of the questions. There was some seniors. This program, we ran sort of a numbers to see if we would, for every sticker that we sold for an access for a senior citizen, if they were to get 5 free 8-gallon bags, what we would assess the fee to the program. what that essentially did was it raises the first sticker up to $110, and then the rest of it stays the same as option one. And then the last option is if the board opted not to go with pay-as-you-throw, this is, if we stuck with the one sticker fee, what would that be? And based on what we're seeing with the markets right now with the trash, we're not seeing any increases, so it would be, recommendation would be to keep the existing fee structure. That's sort of the three options that we've kind of laid out, and sort of the premise of how it would work. The pay-as-you-throw itself, from an operational standpoint, is really just the way the money comes in, as far as that goes. The rest of the logistics, as far as how we're managing it or how people are coming and using it, it's really just splitting that fee rather than paying it one time up front. You're kind of paying it, the sticker to get in, and then you're paying as you go. So if the average person would generally break even, and then there'll be, if someone produces less, they'll pay less. If someone produces more than the average, then they'll pay more. So that's generally the sort of the overall of the pay-as-you-throw program.
Thank you, Corey. So questions from the board members? Chingsung?
Well, first question, and then I may have a second follow-up question depending on your answer. The first question is, does the transfer station have any data as far as identifying whose specific transfer station tickets were issued to, identifying data like maybe names, addresses, credit cards, any of that, as far as so you can identify uniquely, each individual sticker that is currently out there?
Yeah, when they're applying the stickers, it's going by the license plate verification of Acton residents. So.
Okay, so you do have that data, and I assume that if we asked you to, you could go back and compile, the past maybe a couple years, 2-3 years, as far as retention rates and whatnot. Because I think under the implementation of pay-as-you-throw, I would be very interested to see how that changes, if at all.
Yeah, we generally, in the program that they use, they generate sort of monthly reports of the number of stickers they sell, so we have that data of how many stickers we're selling, whether it's...
But it's not just number of stickers, it's also who buys a sticker. Because if one person chooses not to buy a sticker, another chooses to buy a sticker, you have the same number of stickers, but you do not have a 100% retention rate. And so I would be curious to know not only how many stickers you sell, but how many people choose to renew stickers, and how many people choose to buy stickers that they're not having, and how many people choose to no longer use the transfer station, all three different categories.
Yeah, I would assume in the data they collect I would assume there's a way to extract that, and we could probably look at.
Yeah, I just have a few questions. I always ask this question again, and I just want to clarify that table that shows the red lines and the blue lines. That's only people that use transfer station, or it's all trash?
Transfer station users.
So it's transfer station users. So the average within the transfer station.
At that,
Like,
in that town.
so if it decreased the number of people.
But it's the average number of users for the transfer station as well, so it's not looking at the average number town-wide, right?
Because I do want to, and I really like the idea of keeping track of who is getting the stickers, because that's my biggest concern, and I really want to go forward with this, and as we said, it was a trial basis, and we always can every year decide what we're going to do, so I really want to go through with it, and I know that it's hard for people, change is hard, but I have concerns about seniors and people with disabilities, and whether it's hard. If I am weak, or I am not feeling well, or I have an unusual need, that's the first thing to go, is wanting to organize my trash. And I just want to make sure that we are being as welcoming and as easy to live in Acton. But I like the idea of decreasing the trash. So I really like the idea of keeping track if we lose people, who say, I just can't do it, at our transfer station. I want to make sure we're supporting people in that way. And I wondered So I have a couple questions. Did we consider the sticker on the bag thing instead of buying the bags? Did we?
I know I've seen that in communities. I know that my hometown in Pepperell, they were doing it. One of the things is the bag is visible, so the gentleman that's running the front end loader, he's responsible to be looking at the material for waistband items and making sure it's not in there. And so it's an easy visual for him to look across the floor and see a color. That's generally what most communities say. When you're trying to find a sticker, whether someone puts it on the side of the bag or it's on the bottom, it's harder for the person that's there to try to confirm whether or not it's they paid the fee. So I think from an operational standpoint, the bag is just an easy visual for them to really pinpoint whether it's a viable bag or not.
Oh, okay.
And I'd add about it allows variable sizing. If you've got the sticker on the bag, the sticker's one cost no matter the size of the bag. So that's going to benefit somebody that can lift a 30-gallon bag more than somebody that can lift an 8-gallon bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I appreciated someone who wrote in and talked about liking to change their bags often, and they might end up using more plastic by putting it in a lot of other plastic bags and then combining them all into a big bag. My only other question, I would love to see for those towns, and especially for us, the percentages of private hauler versus transfer station before and after, and senior and not. I would love to have that data and be able to track it.
So I don't think we have senior or not, but private versus transfer station users, the towns I know that we asked did not see a shift or a decrease in the number of users overall at their transfer stations, and I believe that's true statewide in the towns that have implemented pay-as-you-throw throughout the years, but I can't speak to the senior versus not shift.
Okay.
Peter.
We first started looking at this last September, and I think most of this information has been presented to us before and was available at town meeting also. One question I had was about the free stickers for deserving residents. Is that a new program, or is that been going on?
That's new. That's something that we've been hearing echoing back to us year in and year out about the need to help the assistance of people.
Okay. I was going to suggest that the services coordinator speak with the assessors, because we're now doing the senior tax relief under abatements that the assessors are providing to deserving senior citizens. And if there was a process where if they granted an abatement because the person deserved that, they might also be able to give them a free sticker rather than have them then go to see the senior services coordinator to get that, so I just suggest that connection.
Janet?
First, a very trivial question. Are these bags going to be coming in packs of multiple bags? Or
They generally, what I was seeing in the market, they generally come in sleeves of 5 or 10. I think 5 is kind of the normal, what I was seeing, but those are kind of the two consistent sizes.
Yeah, since everybody's talking about data or information they'd like to see, one of the things, because I have the schedule from the Sudbury transfer station, which I'm familiar with, because my mother lived there until 2 weeks ago for almost 60 years, and she was a transfer station user. They had one flat fee, no break for seniors. She was 93 going on 94. She went to the transfer station fairly regularly. And I honestly was listening to some of the people last fall talking about these heavy bags and how they'd be overwhelmed, and I thought, I think my mother would be mortified to get up at a mic and say that about herself. But she's frail, but she's very self-reliant in any event. They have a flat rate of $155. What I'm curious about is whether it's always, if it's stayed steady along with the users, or if users have declined and the sticker price has gone up, because they have an enterprise fund set up the same way that we do. So the costs, all the revenues come from the users, and all of the costs are paid out of those revenues, something I'm not sure that some people in this town understand, because there was talk at town meeting about how the town was going to be making money off of this, and that's not, the benefit is going to fall on users who currently are subsidizing a lot of people who generate a lot of trash. So, but I'm just wondering, it would be interesting to see what the trend is in other towns that have adopted pay-as-you-throw with regard to over time, what the cost is to the users, whether there's a, relative to the number of users. I don't know how you can figure that out, but I happen to support pay-as-you-throw, but it would be interesting to me. It's probably not going to alter my feeling about it, because I think it's better for our society if we do this. And I do happen to believe that although many people will do what we're supposed to recycle and all that voluntarily, there are people for whom there needs to be a little bit of a prod to do what many of us think is the right thing. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, and because this has come up with a number of comments, it's the whole issue of discarded wood. People who do home projects and they have a lot of, well, it's construction waste and all that. And Sudbury they have an itemized list, a fee list, but instead of having sort of small, medium, large, they basically have all the items listed out. They have the same electronic stuff that we have with fees assigned to it and places where you can put it and leftover oil. But then they have something for construction debris. And I don't know if, I don't think it's for people who are not residents, but they're talking about per cubic yard, $32 per cubic yard, or $16 for half a cubic yard. And apparently there are people at the transfer station who actually kind of eyeball how much there is, so that the people don't have to stick all that stuff in a bag, which would probably be futile, because a lot of that waste is just going to break right through even the strongest bag. So I don't know if there's going to be waste stuff other than sort of wood scraps that people are going to be bringing to the transfer station and want to deal with in an easier, more practical way than sticking the stuff in the bags. And so it's something, it's in Sudbury, it may exist in other towns, but I thought that might be something, if it starts to be an issue with people showing up at the transfer station with odds and ends that aren't covered by the existing list, to modify it. But
yeah, we're looking to sort of keep an eye on those things. That's one reason why we instituted the new sort of coupon fee for the smaller item that just doesn't fit. We have in the existing fee structure, there's a fee for if someone was doing something in their house and they just had a bunch of stuff and they had like a trunk load of stuff, rather than trying to, it was odd shaped items, whatever. We have a fee for just that trunk load fee to get through the gate, so they don't have to try to bag all that. I mean, I've been going through my house at home and sorting through, and whatever I can cut down and fit in a bag, that's what I've been doing recently. But there are some things that I can't fit, and I have to pay the additional fee to get rid of those. So.
And then one last question: is in doing your survey of what other towns are doing, do they typically differentiate between the regular permit cost and senior cost? Or, I mean, I don't know how many there are that are like Sudbury that just don't differentiate. You don't get a break if you're a senior.
It was kind of a mix. I mean, a lot of communities had a senior fee built into it. Like I said, some communities just, there was a flat rate, but I think more so I was seeing senior fees associated with them. So.
Yeah. Okay. I honestly didn't know that Sudbury was different until I was talking to my mother about last fall's town meeting, and she said, I don't get a break as a senior. And I said, really? So, yeah. I was surprised, because I thought everybody did that.
And that's one of the reasons that we were looking at having 3 different sizes to try to give people the option for the smaller bags or medium, depending on what you produce and sort of what you think you're capable of. So we're hoping that will help people. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Corey. My one question was about why you guys picked the 30-gallon bag for the free bags in option 1. Was that sort of what Laura and the other service coordinators had suggested, or?
Why we went with the 30-gallon, or?
Yeah, for the free bags, because it said 250 30-gallon bags, or was that just the cost-wise?
That was looking at for the assistance program. It's essentially, I think that was looking at 5 free bags per the stickers that we were looking at breaking up between those individuals. So it'd be a sticker pass and then 5 free stickers, 5 free bags that would go with it.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering the size, because I
Oh.
imagine a lot of people might be seniors that would want the smaller bag, or in the second option, you had
Yeah.
5 free 8-gallon bags for seniors if we went
Yeah.
with option 2 versus the 30-gallon bags in option 1. So I don't know if that was, you were set on what size you would give people, or if that was just an approximate price.
No, that's something as we fine tune it, we can get a different adjustment. So, you know, say, depending on the person, we can adjust that for the household.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, those are my questions. So I'd like to open up to the audience, and again, just state your name and address, and preferably, just because there's a lot of folks tonight, if you could keep your questions and comments to about 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Bradley. I live on Torrington Lane. Thank you for your service. I think that it's very applaudable, and we should do as much as we can to encourage the recycling here. I think this is misconceived in the sense that it's conflating waste tonnage, if you will, with recycling efforts. I think the most telling fact is right there on the first page of the proposal. The tonnage has gone down by 20% in the past 8 years alone under the current system. If you go to the dump like I do for my family every Saturday, it's a beautiful thing to see the folks go in, go to the right, go through the process. As you come through the recycling portion to head to the waste, it's rare that you even see cars going straight through. I think everybody's doing a good job, and that I think what you're trying to do here is eviscerate the proper role of town government and the benefit that comes through this collective service. Yes, you are obviously subsidizing some of the older citizens, or the greenest of the green, if you will, by enacting this kind of price discrimination, but it's really differentiation, you know, in the sense of price discrimination in the economic sense of the term. But clearly what you're doing here is just making this a lot more difficult for families. This is, if you voted for this is a vote against and making things harder for families. It's inherently a subsidy to help people who have low trash, like seniors. So to do a double low rate, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Under this proposal, the normal gallon things that they sell at Ace Hardware are 32-gallon things. I have 4 kids. My whole street, this town for good schools and families. Two bags of, you can't even fit a 30-gallon bag in the normal thing that they sell at Ace Hardware. They're 32-gallon drums. You buy the 45-gallon plastic thing just so you have enough room to tie it up, okay? We go through 2 of those a week, okay, for a family. With the 30-gallon bags, that has to be at a minimum 3. That's $450. So my bill is going to double to go just under $400. So this doesn't make sense from a family perspective. So that why? Someone who's, you know, very conscientious with their waste, assuming everyone's recycling, they're gonna pay $100 and then maybe they only use 10 bags? I don't know, they save $50 or something? We're decreasing waste as it is. Option 3 clearly isn't calling for a raise. This is, you know, let's encourage recycling. This is to add the disconvenience of getting these bags, to encourage people to throw garbage all over town because they don't want to go pay $150 or they don't have a bag. This is a really bad idea. And to vote for option 3 tonight. Sorry, thanks again for your service.
Thank you.
Ken Henderson, Fort Pond Road, resident for 43 years. Over the last 3 days and a total of 8 hours, one person collected over 300 names that was so simple, they were rushing to sign it. They hate pay-as-you-throw, they don't want it, and they want to get rid of it. And roughly 90% of the people that came to me to sign the petition, they didn't know what it was about, they were against it. 90% of 4,000 users were against it, right? And they were extremely mad. They were actually grabbing the pen out of my hand to sign this petition. The transfer station is a great, how can I say it? You meet a lot of people, you meet your neighbors, you meet the politicians, you meet the Boy Scouts, you meet the Acton Boxborough kids, you can give them money. A lot of people don't go. My kids that live in Littleton no longer use trash pickup because they went to pay-as-you-throw. All their neighbors do no longer use pay-as-you-throw. They have a private entity. The town always stresses about education. Yet, why aren't we educating people about recycling? Instead, we're putting this big plan ahead that we're gonna have to somehow pay all this extra money to throw our trash away. I have a hobby, I do woodworking. So I'm a senior. It's gonna cost me a ton of money to throw my trash away. Like I said, I've been here for 43 years. Over 4,000 people use the transfer station. I'll make a bet if I had 2 or 3 people at the transfer station with this petition, I could have got at least 2,000 people to sign it. They don't want it. And they can't understand why the people of Acton that decided on this weren't down at the transfer station asking them, do they want pay-as-you-throw? And the answer would be no. So they can't understand how this is coming about. They have no idea it's even going to take place. They had to say, no, that hasn't passed yet. That's not going to happen. You know, we don't want it. So the communication's not out there. An example, we have a meeting today at the transfer station. What do they have on the big board? They had, the transfer station's going to be closed July 4th. They didn't say there's a meeting regarding pay-as-you-throw at City Hall, Town Hall. The taxpayers don't want it. And like I say, there's 4,000 residents that use the transfer station. 90% of the households in this town do not want pay-as-you-throw. So they can't understand why you're shoving it down their throat, basically. That's basically my here's all the names. All the names of people that signed within 8 to 10 hours. They're all against it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Steve Long. I'm from 8 Church Street in Acton. And I just wanted to say some thank yous. First of all, thank you for the process that the Select Board and the Town Manager and the Highway Department have allowed for a stepwise and thoughtful consideration of pay-as-you-throw. There's been a lot of due diligence on the numbers, a lot of due diligence in contacting other communities to find out what works well and what doesn't work well. There have been opportunities for input, and the town has been responsive. Corey has made a lot of tweaks and adjustments to the program, and the program is adaptable. It can continue to adapt for people, for seniors, for woodworkers like me, and others. There are ways to make this program more adaptable and flexible. I'd ask folks to consider the democratic process. There was quite a bit of process here. There have been a lot of changes to the way trash and recycling are managed in Massachusetts over the past 20 to 30 years that lead it to be more of a private sector driven process where we pay for what we dispose of, and we either pay less or earn money for what we recycle, and that makes our transfer station more economical, and pay-as-you-throw truly reflects the way trash operates in Massachusetts. It will save some folks money. Recycling more creates jobs, and it's better for the environment. And I think pay-as-you-throw is more equitable. It's like paying for utility. You use more water, you use more gas, you use more electric, you pay more. It's a choice to dispose. You can still choose under pay-as-you-throw. You're not being forced to recycle. So I applaud the Select Board for taking this up. Being a public official sometimes means making choices that are challenging where there are different sides of an argument. And I applaud your courage for being elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Sid Levin, Minot Avenue. Real quick, gentleman here made a couple of comments. One I agree with about education. I'd like to see education about recycling, about reducing waste. All of society needs to do that. The other comment he made was that under the pay-it, his costs are going to go up. That means right now I'm subsidizing his trash. So as far as equitable, I want to see pay-as-you-throw. If he's got a woodworking thing, I'm paying for that. I don't think that's fair. All the other towns seem to be doing it. It seems to be the way of the future. I mean, I like things that are less complicated, but I don't see where this is complicated. I'm still going to recycle. Everybody who is recycling now is paying for those people who are not recycling. It's a tough one. Try it. I'm for it. See how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.
Hello, I'm Ward Bine. I live on Half Moon Hill in Acton. I'm very concerned that after a very nice, thoughtful, and fact-filled presentation that Corey gave, that there were other things that were being said that I thought were there was no factual basis for the concerns and estimates of how many people were for or against, or how much it would cost. There was for an average household. None of that was factual based. That was all emotional, to me, emotional reaction, and not. So I'd ask the board not to heed that and to stick with the factual presentations that have been presented very well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bob Ingram, Quabog Road. Has there been any surveys taken of the people who use the dump as to their outlook on this question?
We didn't survey transfer station users specifically. We had the non-binding resolution at town meeting.
I spent 3 hours at the dump last Saturday, was signing up the petitions, part of the petition that you have in front of you. In that 3-hour period, there were 4 people who did not want to sign because they weren't in favor of it. There were 2 people who were undecided, and everybody else was resoundingly did not want it. And not because it may make a little more money or we may get a little more recyclables, but it's just a lot of pain and inconvenience for the user.
Thank you, Bob.
Larry Kanawha, Betsy Ross Circle. I'm the person that Franny referred to. I'll spare you the arithmetic lesson because I've only got 2 minutes. But by my calculations, this new system is going to cost me about $80 more a year. Now, maybe I'm being subsidized right now because I'm a senior citizen, and maybe the $80 more is what I should be paying. The other thing that bothers me about this, though, is that we're talking about the amount of trash that is generated by the town of Acton. And the way we're measuring this is not by how much trash we're bringing to the dump, but by how many bags we're bringing to the dump. I typically empty my trash at least 3 times a week. It's dictated not by whether the bag is full, but by whether there are onions or fish or chicken bones or any one of other offensive things in the bag. If I choose in a given week generating however many pounds of trash, let's say for the sake of argument it's 20 pounds a week, if I choose to put it in one bag and put up the smells, that's a certain amount of trash. If I choose to empty the trash 5 times during the week, I have put exactly the same amount of trash into 5 bags. Exactly the same amount of trash goes to the dump, but in one case I pay, we'll say $1, and in the other case I pay $5. We should really implement a system that doesn't make it easy to count by counting bags, but actually measures the impact that people are putting by measuring the trash to bring it to the dump. And oh, by the way, we recycle like crazy. I defy somebody to find 1 more ounce of stuff that goes into our garbage that could be recycled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Hart at 102 Charter Road. I thank you all for trying to put together a thoughtful presentation and to continue to want to promote the idea of recycling and protecting our environment. But I'm here tonight to say that I think pay-as-you-go is not a solution. It is not necessarily going to add value to the way we do this in town. I've heard tonight some concern about some of us are subsidizing other folks, and that may be true. But I think for the most part, everybody who uses the transfer station is happy with the way it's operated now and the price point that they're paying for it. And if I happen to be paying more and not putting as much in, and I'm subsidizing a neighbor, well, that's fine for me because it works. The choice in town is really you either pay a private carter or you bring it to the dump. And most of my neighbors happen to use the private carters. I use the dump, but the private carters are significantly more expensive for anybody that's using them. I'd also like to just mention that the point of and it was brought up before that, when we don't include the private carter data in how much trash is actually being picked up by those folks, it skews the numbers that are on the chart for all the towns, and the comparison that Acton doesn't seem to compare as well as other towns with the amount of trash that they're recycling. So I think that's a very important data point that really has to be looked at before we can say that we're as far down on that bar chart as we appear to be. Just one other comment is that, just look at my notes. I don't necessarily think that that the costs are going to be as neutral as we think to all the parties involved. So there's a young fellow here with a family, and he's saying how his costs are going to go up. And I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I'm approaching that senior senior window, and I'm looking at the trash that my wife and I simply throw away now. And it looks like my costs are going to go up as well for the amount of trash that we'll get to put into a bag based on what we're tossing now. So I'm not sure that it's that it's an advantage to seniors either in the pay as you throw. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patrick Bradley again from Torrington Lane. I just wanted to add one more point that in terms of driving traffic towards the private haul, I guess it's called, or the private garbage things, that you're putting families in a really bad position where, I've heard talk about trying to, again, help the seniors, inherently a good thing, but these programs aren't going to reach the families that are trying to keep afloat in Acton at, say, $100,000 a year, and that moving from $200 to $400 per year, puts them in a position between bad and worse. Do you go for this, almost impossible to explain jump in price at the dump, or to go even higher to this private haul service? I gotta assume it's even a little higher. This is just a really bad thing for families again, and it's just self-evident that you're not gonna, the people who live the next town over aren't gonna create half as much waste in a matter of a second. It's because these families the heavy users are going to that harder choice, because the convenience is gonna make that extra 200 even more palatable. Do you want a bad choice or an even worse economic choice when you have all this inconvenience taken away? I mean, let's keep this town collective that's a good thing, and stop trying to have everyone keep up with the Joneses even in garbage. It's a town service. It's a subsidy that we all do, and there's benefits that have come from that. I get to meet some friendly people here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Bradley, Jackson Drive. I just want to add a little bit of fact here. At the the voting at Town Hall, the pros and cons together amounted to less than 2% of the voters in the town. We have not heard from 98% of the residents. The petition you ran has about 300 names on it. That's a small fraction also, but there's a lot more to be heard from people. I wish you would listen more and get more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, at Leonard School Street. I have a problem both at town meeting and also here tonight with the statistics that you put out. You had 25 to 50% reduction in trash with pay-as-you-throw. Is that with, compared to towns that just have trash without recycling? Or is Acton has an extensive recycling program? So I fail to see how we're going to have a 50%, 25 to 50% reduction in solid waste. Also, does that, for that statistics, does that take into account where people go to a private trash collector?
So it looks at, it doesn't look at the towns compared to each other, it looks at the town compared to itself. So it was looking at the towns before they adopted pay-as-you-throw and the town after it adopted pay-as-you-throw, and simply the amount per, I'll say transfer station user, the average waste. And so towns on average see a 45% reduction in the average waste per user after they switch to pay-as-you-throw. So it's comparing a town to itself, so it's an apples to apples to comparison.
So if a town doesn't have any recycling, then that's
correct. So the
huge
towns
thing,
have
yes.
recycling, but they had it before and
Well,
they have it after. And it's just the difference is they've adopted pay as you throw. And so it was, and Jim did a lot of work on these numbers and I don't have all of my notes in front of me. But I believe he looked at, to make it, try to make it more even, was averaging out the 3 years before a town adopted pay-as-you-throw to see the average waste per household using the transfer station, and then the up to 3 years if they had that many years after they adopted pay-as-you-throw to see how much waste people threw away per transfer station user. And the average drop across all those towns was 45%. So towns, what you see on that one chart with the different number, the percent there is the drop that particular town saw.
And that's what I'm saying, is that a town without any recycling, those numbers are skewed once they go to pay-as-you-throw and add recycling.
I believe all the towns had recycling prior to adopting pay-as-you-throw.
And then, in addition, there were no charts that ever showed what the increase in recycling was. So I say there's no guarantee that pay-as-you-throw will increase recycling. And again, especially at Acton, where we can recycle everything. So I would suggest to you that we don't do pay-as-you-throw and we just increase education, signage, website to encourage recycling, because I don't think that we are going to see this huge 25 to 50% in reduction in solid waste. And again, there are no statistics that say what the increase in recycling would be.
So I think we do have some, and I don't have them in front of me, about what the increase in recycling is. The increase in recycling doesn't totally account for the decrease in the municipal solid waste. Some of it is people putting less, just composting, or deciding not to get rid of something, or putting it in the drop swap instead of putting it in. But there is an increase in the recycling rates in those towns as well. I don't have those numbers in front of me tonight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There was no chart at town meeting, and none tonight. So you can't say there's an increase in recycling if there's no data for it.
Okay, based on the info I have in
The
front
source
of
of
me tonight.
Sorry, Katie, do you mind if I comment? Okay, thank you. The source of much of this data is the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, which has an entire website devoted to pay-as-you-throw. What essentially these numbers are quoting is annual data provided by town transfer stations. Most of the towns provide, total annual tonnage, number of users, total tonnage of recycling. That kind of data is all available there if you're curious and want to look at it. As I have my own problems with the data set that's provided, but as far as the numbers you're looking for, they all exist on the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection website. And if you really want to examine them in detail, I advise that you go there and look at the large amount of data that's there.
And I'd also recommend that the board also as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Berry, 21 Martin Street. I'll start off by saying that I'm
kind of dubious that this pay-as-you-throw thing is going to increase recycling. I think what it certainly will do is make things vastly more inconvenient for the average transfer station user, and a lot of them are going to go to private haulers who will just haul away everything, and the recycling total will go down. But I don't have the numbers to back that up. If I'm dubious about pay-as-you-throw, I'm absolutely against this system that you've proposed here, pay-as-you-throw by volume, okay? An earlier speaker talked about, you know, you're not measuring with those bags what is actually thrown out. You're just measuring by the bag. I wish my daughter was here tonight. She was living in Vermont for a while, where they had a pay-as-you-throw system measured by weight. Okay, the car drove in, it weighed the car, read the license plate number. Car drove out, weighed the car, read the license plate number. Fully automated, paid by weight. Okay, you could bring your trash in your regular trash cans. You didn't have to worry about objects which were too large to fit in the bags. Okay, some of the heavier stuff, which is less environmentally friendly, like clumping cat litter, yeah, you know, people stopped using that. They started using alternative things. I have 8 cats. I know about the alternatives. Okay. If you want to get people to recycle, you have to get them to start making that effort. If you do it by volume, there's no incentive to get the heaviest, densest things, which is glass bottles. Okay? Once people start, if you do it by weight, people start paying attention to how much their trash weighs. They take the heaviest things out of them, the glass bottles. As soon as they start doing the glass bottles, they're going to do the tin cans, they're going to do the plastic, because it's all in one stream. Okay? You know, this whole thing sounds, the way it's set up now with the bags, it sounds like kind of a bandwagon, you know, let's save the earth, you know, let's encourage people to recycle. Whether they will or not is another question, okay? But, you know, this is also being backed by a for-profit, you know, corporation. You know, we're going to have to buy their bags, and they're going to make their money, and they're pushing for this, and that's, well, I suppose that's what they're entitled to do. But if you do it by weight, you know, then people can come and do just what my daughter did up in Vermont, drive in, you dump your stuff, you drive out. You don't have to stuff things into bags. You don't have to worry about, you know, whether they're pieces of wood or, you know, charging different rates for things. If it's not recycled, you pay by weight. And it makes things a lot easier for everybody. Okay, a lot less complication, and it can be fully automated. You don't have to have somebody sitting there and watching. So I'm going to ask the selectmen to vote this down, or at least postpone the vote until the town can take a look at the option of doing pay-as-you-throw by weight and not by these bags, which just add more consumption to us.
Thank you.
Ken Henderson, just a quick comment. This concept regarding your neighbors throwing more trash away, I don't go for. The reason why is I haven't had kids in the school system for 25 years. I still pay for the school system, and I have no problem with that. Should someone that has 1 child pay for someone that has 2 childs? So that whole concept, it doesn't wash. So I think you should not even consider that particular part of this article. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Sines, Concord Road. I have several little things. Just to speak to that last point, I think that comparing children to a utility or a service is really not an apples-to-apples comparison. Corey, I wonder if you might just say something briefly to the fact that there are materials that legally cannot be in the trash, because I'm not sure that people really get that.
Under the DEP's code of regulations, there are certain waistband items that they enact. There's such things as the monitors, glass cans, bottles, clean wood, clean wallboard. They just instituted commercial food waste as the newest one that's on there. tires. So they have a whole list in the rules that are banned. What happens is the gentleman that runs the front end loader, it's sort of his job to be kind of monitoring that, trying to grab those before they get into the trash stream. And as we divert the trash off to, right now currently Devon's, but wherever it goes, as they're pulling it out, if they notice those kinds of things, they're mandated to report too. So they'll file a report notice to us and have to keep that stuff on record. So the state has this list of banned items that aren't supposed to be in there, and if they are, we're supposed to pull them out or we get reported. So far, I don't think we've gotten to a point of any kind of a monetary fine. It's strictly we've been receiving notices of certain things that might be in there.
Thank you. One other thing is that I know a number of people have said that Acton does, a great job of recycling, and I think that's relatively true, but if you look at the amount of trash we do, obviously we're not doing anywhere near what we could be doing, and I don't know any way to incentivize people other than to say, it's going to cost you a little more if you don't recycle efficiently. Anybody who has 3 or 4 30-gallon bags of trash a week, please invite me to your house and I'll help you figure out how to reduce it. I'm happy to do it. And I just also want to say, this is anecdotal, of course, because it's anecdotal, that I've had a number of people say to me, I use a private hauler now, and I actually, if pay-as-you-throw happens, I'm going to move to using the transfer station because I will save money. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Hi, my name is Heather Haynes. I live on Central Street, and I just have 2 quick things. One is that although I agree with the gentleman who spoke earlier about the fact that it's disappointing there were only a small percentage of the Acton citizens who came to town meeting and voted at town meeting, that was the number of people who came to town meeting and voted at town meeting. And town meeting is advertised, people know what will be discussed at town meeting, and if people would like to come and express their views, I feel like that's the time that it happens. And as part of the democratic process, the discussion was had and the town voted on it. And so having this discussion with a different group of people feels not quite representative. And the other thing is, I have a family of 4, I have 2 children, and based on my calculations, I will save money with this. Not only do I recycle, but I also compost and I also choose to buy less. So my kids asked about getting a basketball hoop. I could buy them a basketball hoop, but instead I emailed my neighbors in Indian Village and said, does anyone have one they're not using anymore? And I had 3 people who emailed and said yes. So it's not only about recycling more, it's about choosing how you purchase things.
Thank you, Heather.
Bob Ingram, Quabog Road. Something that Corey just mentioned is regarding enforcement. If somebody throws down a non-bought bag into the transfer station, is it going to be he who is running the equipment going to jump out, go find the individual who threw that in? I'm questioning whether or not it's enforceable.
Corey, do you want to?
Yeah, I think under the existing program, they're monitoring the program. If someone's violating the policies, I'm not looking for them to spark a debate right at the peak of a Saturday, but if it's real busy, I've instructed them to try to get the information so that we can find out who it is, and I'll call and talk to them. So.
And I'll just say again, I know you've reached out to a number of communities around us who have recently implemented pay-as-you-throw, and they've reported that on the whole, they don't see issues with people trying to throw in non-pay-as-you-throw bags after, an adjustment period.
Yeah, in general, from all the communities that I spoke with, the implementation being different, there's a few bumps along the road, but it generally settles out, and people have, it's worked well with the communities that have implemented it.
One last comment with regards to the supervising of banned items. If everything's in a bag, people can throw out anything they want and you won't know.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nobody else, thank you everybody for coming tonight and for your comments. So I think what makes the most sense is to just sort of get a straw poll from the board in general, or, you can provide comments when we do this. First, between, I'm just going to combine for the moment, options 1 and 2 is the pay-as-you-throw options versus option 3 staying as is. And then based on that, we can discuss the options more in detail. So Janet Strebel.
Just not option 3.
Okay, so 1 or 2. Peter.
I'm in favor of either 1 or 2.
Okay, Franny. Oh, you can comment now if you want.
I did have a couple comments after
Sure.
hearing, but I am in favor of 1 or 2. But I do want us to look, I really agree with the idea about weight, and I would like us to look into that, and I would like us to really watch how it goes. Because I share some of the concerns that people have, but I think it's a good idea, and change is hard, and so we should try for it and see how it goes. And it was an interesting thought about subsidizing. It's a whole philosophy, and I realize we do subsidize each other all the time in town. I mean, it's sort of really interesting. It's a sort of, it's something to think about. It's bigger than I can think about right now. And I have to say that I'm inspired to, I share a private hauler with 3 people, and actually it's 3 other households, so it's a total of 7 people not filling up one, and so it actually works out financially okay. But I also share a dump sticker. I mean, I'm able to use somebody's. But my point is that I'm inspired by going through this process. What?
You're not supposed to do that, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, I actually have never used it. Okay. I actually, oh, okay. It was available to me, so I didn't know that I couldn't, but I actually haven't, because I use my private hauler. But I'm inspired. I have to say that now, when I look at my trash, having gone through the listening at several meetings and town meeting and reading through this several times, I notice my trash, I think about it, and I'm thinking, maybe I should just get a dump sticker and start going, because I know I'm missing out on a lot of good social time, too, so. But I do want us to try it, keeping all of these concerns, which I think are all very valid, in mind.
Okay, Chingsung?
I would like to first ask Corey, have you examined the option of doing this by weight, and if so, what are the kind of extra costs and extra burdens that would be imposed by doing this by weight?
I haven't looked at the cost of implementing that. One of the issues that we have specific to our transportation is that it's on a landfill. To put a vehicle scale on it, I know we've been looking at it in the regards of the trash itself, and we can't put the scale on the landfill because it is kind of a moving target, so to keep it calibrated as the trash is doing shifting here and there. There's ways around it. I mean, you can see things being built in other communities on a landfill, so it's a matter of the added cost of some kind of a footing to make sure it's secure. But it's something that we'd have to look further into to really see how we could make it work within the layout that we have, or how we'd have to revamp that to change the flow to put it somewhere else. So we'd have to do more analysis. I haven't really looked at costs, but it would be a little bit more of a struggle to try to implement that.
Could you use a non-vehicle scale? Would that be possible? To weigh maybe like a container as opposed to the entire vehicle? Or was that just impractical from a personnel standpoint?
I haven't done a full analysis to really say, but I'm just thinking on a Saturday when they're really busy, it might be difficult as people are pulling their trash out, trying to weigh it, where the program he was talking about, where it does some kind of electronic measuring and logging, so it kind of streamlines that a little bit more. I think for the volume they get on a Saturday, that's probably might be more costly, but maybe a more viable option to keep the flow moving. But we could look at sort of all the options to see if something works, or look at all the pros and cons of all that, so.
Okay, well, I guess to close out my comments, at the moment, I'm not in favor of making any changes because I don't think that, I think that there are options that haven't been explored, and I think that there are questions that need to be answered with respect to this proposal at the time. I am in support of the goals, but I do think that we do need more information and we do need some more careful analysis.
Okay, and then I don't think surprise to most people because they sat through my 15-minute presentation at town meeting, but I'm supportive of option 1 and 2, and I won't make everybody sit through why again for another 15 minutes. So it sounds like the majority of the board would support options 1 or 2, so I think it's worth discussing which of the 2 of those options people prefer, the free 50 access stickers and the 250 bags given out through community service worker, our community service coordinators, or the blanket 5 free 8-gallon bags for seniors, and an increase in the proposed sticker price, well, increase relative to option 1 for non-seniors. So I don't know if people have general thoughts on those. Janet.
Keep it simple, option 1. I don't really understand the real benefit of option 2. It just seems like a sop. I mean, and then on top of the fact that frankly the senior pricing $10, it's almost a giveaway already, at least by my standards. I happen to think that, I think that $100 or $105 or whatever it's going to be for regular permit holders is a big drop. But at the same time, the senior pricing is going to drop a lot, and I understand that there are concerns about economic challenges, but I'm not sure that five bags is going to make so much difference to people who really are in a category where they've got that's going to be meaningful. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be such a meaningful difference to make it worthwhile. So.
Peter, general.
Let me just first comment on some of the points that have been made tonight and why I support either one of these. First of all, the town is making more efforts to encourage more recycling. We've got a swap shed now, as I understand it, working at the transfer station where people can recycle their usable goods rather than throw them out. We're working on better signage to encourage more recycling, so we are making those efforts. I think the process has been very fair. We started talking about this last September, had several presentations leading up to town meeting. This is a process that the selectmen go through every year, setting these sticker fees. We decided to put it to the voters at town meeting through a non-binding resolution, since it is our authority to do this. And town meeting voted to approve the resolution. You can argue about how representative town meeting is, but it is a democracy, and people who are interested in town affairs have the opportunity to read the warrants and come to town meeting and get all the information they need to do to get their input into these and vote on these things. The responses that I've been getting as a selectman through emails more recently and have been running fairly even between people who oppose it and people who support the program. So I think the process has been fair. I'm convinced by the data that the town will experience a decrease in solid waste and simply sending our waste to Devon's to either get burned or trucked to a landfill in Ohio is unacceptable. And we need to do what we can do to try to cut down on the solid waste we use, and it appears to me from the data that what accomplishes that is a monetary incentive to get it done. The information I've gotten from other towns who have implemented this, I talked to Keith Bergman, the town administrator in Littleton. There, the selectmen just voted to do it without going through the town meeting process. There was a citizen petition after that for the next town meeting to revoke that vote. By the time town meeting came around, the citizens were satisfied that it was working well and understood the process, and the citizens' petition was defeated at town meeting, and so they continued with the program. It is a 1 year, every year it gets set, so if for some reason it doesn't work out and we don't experience a decrease in municipal solid waste, then we can vote to revoke it next year or continue to look at the option. I do agree that a process of doing this by weight probably makes a lot more sense. And we can look at the investment to try to see what that would entail in case we could do that in the future. But for all those reasons, I support, and I'm going to pick option one. To raise non-senior citizens' fees by $10 in order to provide the free bags. We're already doing that for people who need the free stickers. I'm a senior citizen. I think option one is the fairest way to go. So.
Thank you, Peter. Franny?
Option one, for the reasons.
Chingsung, I don't know if you have a preference between option one and two.
I actually do, given the option, well, given that if we do move forward with option one or two, I would prefer option one. I would like to mention that I do think that the data as a whole, once again, only looks at transfer station users. And when you're measuring the behavior of the population, it's critical to understand both the composition of the population as well as the composition of the population is critical. This is why I asked you about the retention rate earlier, Corey. I don't have the data as far as what the composition of the population for other towns was before and after pay-as-you-throw. If Acton has data as far as who has been purchasing tickets in the past and who will be purchasing tickets under pay-as-you-throw, we will have our own data to go on, and that will, and I think that will be very informative as far as are we looking at the behavior of the same population, yes or no. Again, I would also think that if we do move forward, it would be a good idea to continue to examine the option of doing this by weight, as well as probably do a survey of transfer station users sometime after the implementation has gone through to ask them whether or not they prefer the new system or the old system. I think that would also be something that I would be very interested in hearing about. But in summary, given the choice between option one and two, neither of which is my first choice, I will pick option one.
Okay. So thank you, Peter, for summarizing. I think a lot of the reasons that pay-as-you-throw is important and why I think this process was fair and democratic. We have been talking about this for a very long time and very publicly, and we took it to town meeting purposefully to get an idea. And while I think that obviously the transfer station users are those that are impacted the most by this choice, I do think that going to pay-as-you-throw has broader impacts on the town as a whole. Looking at, and I understand that there are some questions about the specific people that are using this, but if you look at the data as a whole, it's unquestionable that there is a reduction in the average solid waste produced per household in towns that switch to pay-as-you-throw. And it's if you've spent as much time as I and a lot of people smarter than me have looking at this information, you really can't deny that. And there are the benefits in reducing our overall municipal solid waste produced in Acton, benefits the town and the residents and our future residents and our environment as a whole. So I think there are a lot of positives about this, and I think it's a fair system. And I agree with others that I think option one is the best, because I think having free bags that are focused on the people that actually need them through our community service workers who, kind of have a pulse on the town and know the people in town that need assistance makes a lot more sense than just saying blanket that seniors, need the assistance more, and we're already offering a reduced sticker rate to try to acknowledge that we want to offer a break to seniors in general. I don't know that we need another one on top of it. So since it sounds like the majority of the board is supporting option one, if anybody wants to make a motion to whatever effect they'd like.
Move to approve option one.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming, everybody. And thank you, Corey, for coming and for all of your work on this as well. Okay, up next is discussion of the charge for a Community Preservation Committee Standing Committee, which is a lot of words for this committee, but Peter, do you want to take it away?
Yes, I asked this to be put on the agenda. There has been discussion, particularly among members of the Community Preservation Committee, about possibly raising the assessment in the town. Currently, we're at 1.5% of the real estate tax bill. The Community Preservation Act actually allows up to a 3% assessment. One of the reasons to go to 3% is that the state reimburses more money to communities that are at the higher amount. I've kind of expanded this to, in the language of this proposal, to look not just at the actual assessment, but right now I think we probably passed the CPA 10 years ago. We have a long history of implementing projects under the CPA, and so a lot of this is already contained in the Community Preservation Committee's annual report, which has a listing of all the projects that have been funded and how much has been spent every year. But I thought we should take a look at how it's worked over the 10 years that it's been in operation and all the programs that it's funded, projects it's funded, how the financing has worked, and what's been accomplished since it was originally adopted, as well as looking at possible changes, including a possible increase in the assessment. One of the hard questions, I think, about increasing the assessment is whether funding that is now promised at a much higher rate, if you assess at the 3% figure, is actually going to be there in the future. So that's a question we would have. But the makeup of the committee, I'm proposing 10 people, including boards, representatives from all of the boards that now appoint members to the Community Preservation Committee itself, who would be appointed by the board to be members of this standing committee. It could be the person who sits on the CPA for that board, or CPC for that board, or it could be another member of that board. And I added a few members. A member of the Acton Housing Authority, a member of the Acton Community Housing Corporation, who are not on the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee right now, but have always had projects funded through the Community Preservation Committee. So I thought it would be appropriate to put somebody from the Community Housing Corporation on there. A member of the Finance Committee, not currently an actual member of the Community Preservation Committee, but they do have liaisons to the committee, and certainly the Finance Committee should be involved in this discussion. And 2 citizens at large appointed by the Selectmen. So that's the proposal. They would report back their findings, any recommendations for changes to the Board of Selectmen by January 31st of 16. And the reason I picked that date was to give us enough time to prepare warrant articles for the town meeting if that's the result of this study committee. So.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Questions, Janet?
Move to approve the proposed charge. We can have a discussion if somebody wants a second, but I just, want to move it along.
You want a second, and then we
but
can, okay.
Then I can.
Sure, Franny.
Did you think about whether it makes sense to have people that are on the committee that have been making all the decisions versus people from those other committees who are not on the CPA committee? It's sort of like evaluating yourself or having outsiders evaluate it.
Yeah, no, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about that. It certainly is a good point. I was thinking more about boards that, are directly related to the CPA process, but I don't know if you have a suggestion about how to deal with that, but.
No, the people that are, can I?
Yeah.
The people that are on the committee obviously are more familiar with the process and would be better at evaluating it, but then it's harder to be fair. I mean, if you're really looking and seeing how well it's been working.
I know that I think on some committees it's hard because I think some committees there have been multiple people on that committee who have served on the CBC over the years, so that would narrow it down even more. And I think, there was one version where I think you had members of the committee and then you changed it a little bit, and I think it makes sense this way because then each committee could decide, so they can decide amongst themselves whether it's somebody from that serves as their liaison or whether they think it's useful to have somebody that's not. And I know at least one of my committees that there are people with kind of strong opinions about this, and so they might appoint somebody who's not their liaison. But yeah. Any other questions, Janet?
Yeah, I think that, to my way of thinking, it makes more sense from an efficiency standpoint to have somebody who is already on the main CPC also be involved in this standing committee if they're willing to devote the extra time to yet another committee. But I think it's my sense, even though you're on the committee, it's not as if you're going to be so profoundly biased in favor of your committee and sort of patting yourselves on the back that you can't be objective about what has gone well and what hasn't gone so well. I think, I was on CPC at one point representing First Conservation and then this board. So, and it turns over. It doesn't turn over a lot, but it's certainly not one of these things where everybody who's on the committee is just sort of a yes person. I think we're all adults after all, so, and we have our own opinions, so anyhow. So I think it would be fine, but yeah, I think if you leave it to the committees to decide, then if there are certain members of the committees that feel strongly that would be more objective than the person who's actually representing the committee, then so be it, so. Peter?
No, I was just going to say, I think that's also a little bit offset by having a FinCom member on there who will bring a different perspective to this committee maybe, and 2 citizens at large that we appoint, and if you're looking for people who have particular kinds of input into this committee, then we can choose those people, so.
My question, Peter, was, is this going to be staffed by anybody, by any town staff, or just?
I did not put that in here when we were discussing this. I'm thinking about another standing committee that I'm working on, but no, I hadn't actually thought about that. Roland certainly has staffed the Community Preservation Committee all along, and in terms of providing information and whatnot, I think he'd be available, I would hope, to this committee. So.
Okay. And then there's no specific person who has to be chair, right? They can decide amongst themselves who will chair the committee? Right.
Like any other committee, the standing committee, study committee would choose its own chair. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? All right, seeing none, we've got a motion in a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Should we appoint our committee representative?
Right, that's true. I guess we should appoint our person.
Is it too early? I moved to.
I was anticipating, no, I don't think it's too early. I was anticipating that, over the summer, the committee would be assembled and then begin work in September, so.
I moved to appoint you, Peter, as our representative on this standing committee. Surprise, huh?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of appointing Peter, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Peter, you got yourself another committee. Okay, consent agenda, so I'll read through these, and if anybody wants to hold anything, please say hold. And I apologize in advance, there are some names on here that I might mispronounce. Number 4, Eagle Scout Court of Honor, Siddharth Salunka and Edward Dunn, which Peter's going to cover. Reinstatement of an all-alcoholic beverage license, Makaha Restaurant. Approve meeting minutes September 8th and 22nd, 2014, October 15th and 20th, 2014, November 3rd and 17th, 2014, December 1st, 2014, February 5th, 23rd and 23rd, 2015, March 9th, 2015, April 6th, 2015, and May 4th, 2015.
Hold.
Okay.
Tiny.
Yep. Number 7, approve executive session minutes, November 12th, 2014, December 15th, 2014, April 7th and 27th, 2015, and May 4th, 2015. One-day alcoholic beverage license, Middlesex West Chamber of Commerce, NARA, September 12th, 2015. Number 9, farmer's market license to sell, Coastal Vineyards. Number 10, farmer's market license to sell, Charlton Orchards Group. Number 11, farmer's market license to sell, Turtle Creek Winery. Number 12, accept gift recreation department, Emerson Hospital, a gift of $1,500 to help support the 2015 summer concert series and special events. Thank you very much, Emerson. Accept gift recreation department, Northern Bank, a gift of $2,000 to help support the 2015 summer concert series and special events. Thank you very much, Northern Bank. A one-day alcoholic beverage license, Old Gold Rugby Football Club, NARA, July 12th, 2015.
Hold.
Hold?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 15, a committee appointment, Thomas Beals, Board of Registrars of Voters. Number 16, request to dispose of obsolete items, Acton Memorial Library. And number 17, one-day alcoholic beverage license, Jenna Panini, NARA, and this was just a retro approval. Okay, Franny, do you want to talk about number 6 first?
The minutes from November 17th, 2014. It said that
12? Oh, no.
I recommended that 2 members of the Board of Selectmen be on the committee, and I think it should have said 2 members of the Council on Aging Board, unless I'm forgetting and maybe I wanted...
No, I think that was what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So
Lisa, will you?
The Senior Center Study Committee, right before it says 10, there'll be 10 members, it said that Osman recommended that there were 2 members of the BOS, and it should be COA. In the minutes.
I think if we can just do it, we can just vote it as
small.
modified. Yeah. Okay. So are you okay if we're doing that as
Yes.
modified? Okay.
Yes.
So I'll put that back. And then number 14.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to check, I hear there's going to be 3 police details there, but my question is, it says if you have more than 50 people, you're supposed to have a tips person? And then they said, no, they weren't having a tips person, so tip certified bartender, so I was wondering about that.
It did say that in Chief Woodmeyer's note, back and forth though, he said he was okay. That's what they've done, and they've done this multiple years, and that in the past they've had a couple police officers there, so they felt okay with not having that was my sense. I
It
don't
just
know if other
looked
people
contradictory.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't have any problem.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 4 through 17?
I move that we approve consent items, agenda items 4 through 17.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and did anybody have questions or anything else they wanted to add to their selectmen reports? Excellent. All right, then can I have a motion to move into executive session to prepare for negotiations with to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Yeah, and prepare for negotiations with non-union personnel.
I move that we move into executive session to discuss contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and to discuss, strategy with respect to litigation.
No, that one we're not doing, but yeah.
I didn't know if I had to read the whole thing.
Yeah. Peter seconding. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Do you have anything to read?
Oh, yeah. It's been a long day. Before the roll call vote to enter executive session, let me state that in executive session, the selectmen will discuss strategy for it and will conduct negotiations with the town manager. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Chang?
Aye.
Ms. Osman?
Aye.
Ms. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Barry?
Aye.
Ms. Adachi, aye.
Okay, we gotta kick you guys out. Sure, Molly.
Did you guys vote on the discussing
The town manager's contract?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go into executive session to do that now and after, and I think I was supposed to read that. At the conclusion of the executive session, the board will reconvene an open session just to discuss and approve the amended employment agreement between the town of Acton and the town manager. We just didn't get it to it in our earlier executive session. No. So we are gonna do that after. If you wanna hang around, it shouldn't be that long. We can let you back in, or
If you want to do it, I just want to email me tomorrow.
I can email you, yeah. Okay.
All right, cool, thank you.
All right, thanks, Molly. And I'm gonna go make sure they're,
Do you think I could have a ride home? Yeah, sure. Thanks. I did. My son dropped me off. And I live in West Side.
Okay, back in regular session, we are going to vote on approving the amended employment agreement between the Town of Acton and the Town Manager, Stephen L. Ledoux. Do I have a motion?
I move that we...
No, there's a specific thing you gotta read, is all. Yeah.
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen approve and execute the Third Amendment and restated employment agreement between the Town of Acton and Town Manager Stephen Leo Ledoux dated June 8, 2015 in the form presented.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Okay. And now can I have a motion
Move
to adjourn? Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say
Aye.
aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much.